Have you ever wondered what it takes to get those perfect blueberries into your kitchen? Right now, the global market is at a high stakes crossroads. While demand is record breaking, extreme weather is pushing growers to their absolute limits. From the flooding and heat waves disrupting Morocco's crucial supply to the rain soaked fields of Spain and the premium varieties emerging in Peru, the entire industry is in total flux. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the 2026 Global Blueberry Overview to see who's leading the charge and who's struggling to survive. You won't want to miss this. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack something pretty wild. We're looking at how the absolutely explosive year-round consumer demand for blueberries is colliding head-on with extreme climate volatility.
Right, so let's dive into this by anchoring some complex global economic data literally right in your refrigerator. Think about it. Have you noticed blueberries are suddenly everywhere? But maybe, just maybe, lately they've been a little softer than usual or they're spoiling faster? Well, that is definitely no accident, because the berries you buy are currently sitting right at the center of a massive, high-stakes global supply chain struggle.
Okay, let's get into part one, the global blueberry boom. What we're really looking at here is a fundamental shift in consumer behavior. It's completely transformed this fruit from, a niche, seasonal summer treat into a daily household staple. And driven by this unstoppable demand, the global blueberry market is on a massive trajectory. We're talking about a projected market value of an incredible $13.53 billion by 2032. It's riding a super robust annual growth rate of nearly 8%. Basically, the world just simply cannot get enough of this fruit.
Actually, the Italian consumer market brilliantly illustrates this boom. Get this, 35% of households there are actively purchasing berries, returning to buy them about 7.5 times a year. And that high penetration market window, it's expanding to a staggering 6 months, stretching all the way from February to September. Consumers now completely expect supermarket dominance and true year-round availability.
Which brings us to our next section. Number 2, climate change breaks supply chains. Here is the big problem. Just as consumer demand hits these unprecedented peaks, global climate volatility is stressing this massive network literally to its breaking point. We're seeing heavy, totally unseasonal rains in Spain and Morocco, and that's causing severe harvest delays and production deficits. Meanwhile, over in Peru, El Niño heat has been throwing a curveball, delaying harvests by up to a full month. Add in some acute winter freezes in North America and heavy flooding in South Africa threatening future volumes, and well, you've got a perfect storm of disruption. So how does this actually play out? Well, this physical damage creates a rapid cascade of failure. Adverse weather like those intense early season rains in Spain and Morocco I just mentioned directly leads to softer, highly vulnerable fruit with split skins. Importers simply can't keep this vulnerable fruit fresh while it's in transit, which causes sudden retail scarcity for you, the consumer. And ultimately, that scarcity drives intense pricing volatility. It's exactly what we're seeing right now in South Africa, where prices have spiked enormously just because of constrained early supply. Let's move on to number 3, regional winners and logistics.
So, these physical failures on the farm ripple outward, and they force production regions to adapt on the fly. Now, despite massive El Niño headwinds, Peru remains the absolute volume dominator. They capture 44% of U.S. imports by aggressively extending their export peak by weeks, just trying to fulfill all that demand. Meanwhile, Mexico captures nearly a third of the market, sitting at 29%. And they've done this by strategically capitalizing on the very weather disruptions we just discussed. They secure the spring gap when Florida experiences freezes and Morocco faces flooding. Pretty clever, right?
Then you have Colombia, which is acting as what you could call a domestic sponge. They are happily absorbing 95% of their own 12,000-ton production. Why? Well, high local prices and very strict U.S. pest control rules, which actually require 15-day cold treatments, mean Colombians are essentially keeping all the best fruit for themselves. Contrast that with Egypt. Egypt projects a massive 60% sales growth this year, but they're hitting a rigid logistical ceiling. Their incredible consumer demand is being heavily suffocated by expensive, limited air freight capacity. Because you see, here's the harsh reality of the cold chain. Moving fragile, weather-beaten standard berries across the globe is becoming simply too expensive. You have highly sensitive fruit demanding rapid transport, but it's battling air freight bottlenecks and massive pest control delays. On top of that, delicate standard berries require manual harvesting. In emerging regions, labor accounts for an immense 75% of production costs.
And with local labor costs surging 24% recently, the industry is literally being squeezed from all sides. This brings us to a really fascinating shift. Number 4, the premium genetics pivot. To survive this brutal combination of climate friction and skyrocketing logistical expense, global agriculture is executing a massive strategic shift. We are witnessing a clear bifurcation out in the fields. Growers from Germany to Mexico are actively abandoning the vulnerable, volume-first legacy berries. These are standard varieties like Bluecrop and Ventura that simply split and fail under extreme heat and rain. Instead, they're enthusiastically pivoting to quality first. They're investing in premium next-gen genetics, varieties like Sekoya, Amalia Rose, and Draper. These are engineered specifically for physical resilience, a guaranteed shelf life, massive size, and locked-in flavor profiles. It's an absolute game changer. And it's working. For example, by rejecting standard mechanization and focusing entirely on these flavor-forward premium varieties, Mexico has successfully orchestrated an explosive 250% increase in exports to the highly discerning Japanese market this season alone. I mean, that completely proves the viability of this strategic shift. And as Peru navigates weather delays and Mexico heavily targets those premium windows, the global shipping timeline is basically adapting in real time. Regions like Chile are finding major profitability simply by serving as the vital, high-quality seasonal connector. So when standard early-season supplies dry up from Peru, Chile steps in as the crucial bridge for Europe and Asia, keeping global supermarket shelves reliably stocked. Okay, finally, let's look at number 5, the future of the market. Synthesizing all this data makes the endgame incredibly clear. The standard tier, which is characterized by extreme weather vulnerability and being marginalized by retailers competing on price, is fading rapidly. The future belongs entirely to the premium tier. These engineered, climate-resilient berries are the defining strategy for long-term profitability. Think about it. They're currently growing at a 7 to 8% annual rate in the US and at double-digit rates in Europe, with absolutely zero signs of oversupply. People just want the good stuff. So, as the agricultural industry spends billions engineering a fruit that can literally survive global floods, extreme heat waves, and weeks sitting on cargo ships, I want to leave you with this thought. Next time you're at the supermarket and you finally see that massive, perfectly firm, incredibly flavorful premium berry, is it worth the inevitable higher price tag at the checkout counter? Thanks so much for exploring this fascinating shift with me on this explainer, and we'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the debate. When you look at a pint of perfect blueberries in the dead of winter, you probably just see a natural, simple snack.
Right. Just a healthy handful of fruit.
Exactly. But what you're actually holding is this miracle of high-stakes global engineering. And that is exactly our focus today. With global demand absolutely skyrocketing, the blueberry industry is rapidly shifting to premium, weather-resilient genetics. And I argue this pivot secures a highly profitable, robust future.
Well, I have to disagree. I argue that the immediate climate shocks we're seeing, plus these incredibly rigid supply chain bottlenecks, basically reveal an inherently fragile system. I mean, you just can't genetically engineer your way out of a broken physical reality.
But, I mean, the market is practically a masterclass in adaptation. Look at the demand trajectory. We are targeting a $13.5 billion valuation by 2032. That's nearly an 8% annual growth rate.
Sure, the numbers look great on paper.
They look great in reality, too. Consumers treat them like absolute necessities now. Take Italy. Household penetration there just hit 35%. They have a solid 6-month window of high consumption. To support that, growers are ripping out vulnerable legacy bushes like the classic Bluecrop and planting proprietary premium genetics, things like Sekoya and Draper.
Okay, but what does premium actually mean in this context? It's not just about a sweeter taste, right?
No, it's about biological armor. These next-gen varieties are specifically engineered for firmness, thicker cell walls. They hold their moisture better so they actually survive the cargo ships.
A tougher berry sounds amazing, until you hit the reality of extreme weather. I mean, thicker cell walls don't matter when your fields are literally underwater. Look at the testimony from agronomist Dr. Fawad Amlal regarding Morocco this season.
Right, the flooding over there.
Exactly. He noted this season has been a true test of resilience. They got hit with heavy early-season rainfall and flooding that delayed their harvest peak. He specifically pointed out they are seeing a much higher incidence of sensitive berries and split fruit, which has significantly compromised their shelf life.
Well, yeah, excessive water absorption will do that.
It's a huge problem. He said that while demand in Europe, particularly Germany, remains massive, every single day is a struggle to meet the strict quality standards those international customers expect. So, your biological armor definitely has limits.
I hear that. But I'd argue Dr. Amo's ground level reality is exactly why this premium shift is so urgent. It's like upgrading a fragile operating system. Those Moroccan and Spanish standard varieties failing under weather stress, that just proves the point. The next-gen genetics are engineered to extend that biological shelf life and bypass that exact issue.
But superior genetics can't fix systemic transit friction or just the rising baseline costs of moving the fruit. Take Colombia. Harvesting these premium berries requires such delicate handpicking that labor is now eating up 75% of their production costs.
Wow, 75%? That's steep.
It's massive, and it's projected to go up another 24% by 2026. Plus, to export to the U.S., they have to undergo a mandatory 15-day cold treatment for pests. If a fresh berry only has a maximum shelf life of a few weeks, 15 days in a freezer basically burns its biological clock before it even ships.
Which traps the volume, sure.
Exactly. It traps 95% of their 12,000-ton production in the domestic market. The logistics are literally choking the genetics. And we see similar choke points in Egypt, where massive consumer demand projected at like 60% sales growth is totally throttled by air freight bottlenecks and skyrocketing cold chain costs.
You are pointing to very localized bottlenecks, though. The global macro system is incredibly agile. It actively routes around that damage.
How so? I mean, a bottleneck is a bottleneck.
Because when one region stumbles, another pivots. When El Niño heat severely delayed Peru's volume peaks, Chile seamlessly stepped in as a vital seasonal bridge. Or look at Mexico. When their standard markets got tight, they successfully pivoted premium exports straight to Japan and blew up their volume there by 250%. The network corrects itself.
Right. But routing around damage still means the system is constantly under threat. A heat wave in Peru or that flooding in Morocco still creates massive shock waves. You can't just infinitely outmaneuver climate realities and global transit friction.
Maybe not infinitely, but this varietal innovation and export agility proves we can secure sustainable growth even in a chaotic climate. Though I think we can at least agree that the era of the generic commodity blueberry is effectively over.
Oh, absolutely. The days of throwing any blue fruit into a plastic clamshell and hoping it sells are gone forever. We are basically asking a delicate little berry to carry a multi-billion-dollar global supply chain on its back.
Yeah, and how much more pressure it can withstand and how cleverly human engineering can protect it is something we'll just have to watch unfold. There's clearly a lot more nuance to explore in the material here, but we will leave it to you to draw your own conclusions.